Welcome to our podcast. Feel empty even when life is going well.
You know, sometimes life seems to be going perfectly. You've got the job, the relationships, everything's in place. But there's this emptiness that doesn't seem to go away. It's like you're doing everything you're supposed to, but something just feels off.
Yeah, I get that. It's like you're following the script, right? You're checking all the boxes, work, friends, goals. But still, there's this feeling like something is missing. Like no matter how much you do, it's just not enough to feel truly happy.
Exactly. You're doing all the right things, but you still don't feel fulfilled. And then you start looking at others and wonder why they seem fine, why they've got everything figured out and you don't. It's like you're living in two different worlds at once. One where everything is fine, and another where you're constantly searching for something deeper, something that actually makes you feel alive.
It's tough, isn't it? Like, we're supposed to find satisfaction in the things we achieve. But it's like the more we get, the emptier we feel. The world keeps telling us that more success, more approval will fill the void. But it never does. There's still this nagging feeling like something is missing. And maybe what's missing isn't something we can find outside, but something within ourselves.
Yeah, and admitting that is hard. It's like realizing that all the things you thought would make you happy don't actually do it. And when you finally face that emptiness, you can't ignore it anymore. It becomes this loud whisper that says, there's got to be more to life than this. And then you start questioning everything you've been doing. What was I really chasing? And why does it feel so empty? It's scary when you start to question everything, because you've invested so much in it. All this time, you've been moving forward, following the rules, trying to build something that will make you feel complete. And then suddenly, you realize that maybe none of that actually matters. What you've been focusing on, success, achievements, getting the approval of others, it feels so irrelevant. It's as if you've spent years collecting things, and now when you look at them, they don't feel real. They don't give you the sense of peace you were hoping for. And in that moment, you have to confront something deeper. It's not about fixing what's on the outside. It's about facing what's inside. The emptiness, the silence in your heart, that feeling of being stuck. It's a sign that maybe you need to stop and reevaluate where you're really putting your energy. But the problem is, once you start asking those questions, you can't go back. You can't unsee the truth that maybe everything you thought you needed, you never actually did. And that realization, it's overwhelming. It shakes you to your core. It makes you wonder if there's a different way to live. A way that's not about chasing the next big thing, but about finding contentment in the little moments. What if the real meaning of life isn't found in what we do, but in how we feel and how we connect with others? What if it's about being present, even when things aren't perfect? What if we stopped striving for something that we think will complete us and started accepting ourselves for who we are, just as we are? It's hard to even imagine that, especially when society is constantly telling us we should be doing more, being more, achieving more. But I think deep down, we all know that there's something more to life than just ticking off achievements and meeting expectations. I think that's why the emptiness is so loud. It's trying to wake us up. It's saying to stop chasing and start living.
Yeah, I feel that too. It's like we've been taught to measure life by how much we've done, instead of how deeply we've felt it. Like nobody ever really asks, do you feel at peace? They ask what you've accomplished, what your plans are, what's next. And slowly, without even realizing it, you start living for those answers. You start performing instead of existing. Smiling when you're tired, pretending you're okay when you feel disconnected, keeping busy, so you don't have to sit with what's really going on inside. But that catches up to you, because there's only so long you can run from that quiet voice in your chest that's just aching for something real, something slow, something soft. Not another goal, not another win, just a moment that feels true. And maybe that's what we're all craving underneath it all. Not more noise, not more doing, but meaning, something that makes us feel grounded again, like we're not just floating through our own lives. I think we underestimate how much we need stillness, how much we need to stop and ask ourselves, what do I actually want from this life? Not what looks good, not what sounds impressive, but what feels honest, what feels like home.
Yeah, and sometimes that question hits you when you least expect it. Like when everything's quiet, when you're lying in bed after a long day, and there's nothing left to distract you. No phone, no noise, no tasks. Just you and that strange feeling that something's missing. Even though technically, nothing is. And that moment feels so heavy, because it makes you realize you've been living in a way that looks full on the outside, but feels hollow on the inside. And you don't even know when it started. Maybe it crept in slowly, a little compromise here, a little silence there, until you woke up one day and couldn't feel much of anything anymore. And what's worse is, you don't know how to explain it to people. Because how do you tell someone, I have everything I thought I wanted, but I still feel empty? It sounds ungrateful. It sounds like something you should just snap out of. But it's not that simple. It's never that simple. It's not sadness exactly. It's not pain. It's just this numbness, this quiet ache that never really leaves. And I think the hardest part is pretending like it's not there. Smiling, performing, keeping up, while inside you're wondering if you'll ever feel whole again.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that emptiness doesn't come from what's missing, but from how disconnected we've become from ourselves. We spend so much time being what others need us to be. We forget who we are without all of that. Without the roles, the titles, the expectations. It's like we've been edited down into versions of ourselves that feel acceptable, more polished, more agreeable, less complicated. But the parts we hide, the doubts, the fears, the pieces that don't fit the mold, they don't just disappear. They sit there quietly, waiting to be acknowledged. And when we ignore them for too long, they start to echo. That echo is what we call emptiness. It's not about lack. It's about neglect. It's about abandoning the parts of ourselves we were told were too much, too weird, too soft. I think the reason we feel so hollow is because we've stopped having honest conversations with others, but especially with ourselves. We don't ask, what do I actually need to feel alive? We ask, what do I need to do to be liked? And those two questions lead us down completely different roads.
That's so true. And the more we ignore that inner voice, the harder it gets to even hear it anymore. It's like you slowly forget what joy used to feel like, what lit you up when no one was watching. You become so used to performing that even when you're alone, you're still playing a role. And then you start wondering, what if I don't even know myself anymore? Not the version I show the world, but the raw, unfiltered version. The one that isn't always strong, that doesn't always have it together, but feels real. We're so good at numbing, scrolling, working, filling every second with noise, because silence is uncomfortable and it forces us to feel. But maybe that's what we need. To feel, even if it's messy, even if it's hard. I think sometimes we confuse comfort with peace. We get comfortable in routines, but deep down there's no calm, just distraction. And eventually that catches up to you. You can't outrun your own soul forever. You know, sometimes it's not even about big emotions or deep questions. It's just the day-to-day stuff. You wake up, go through the motions, do what you're supposed to, eat, work, talk to people, and somehow still feel like you're not really there. Like when you're sitting at dinner with your family, and everyone's talking, laughing, but your mind is somewhere else. Not because you want it to be, but because you feel disconnected, even in the middle of something normal. And you try to shake it off. You tell yourself you're just tired, or it's been a long week. But then it happens again the next day, and the day after that. Until one morning, you realize you haven't really felt anything in a while. You've just been existing, and nobody really sees it. Because from the outside, you look fine. You're showing up, smiling when you're supposed to, doing everything right. But inside, it feels like something's fading. Not all at once, just a little bit at a time. And that's the part that scares me. How easy it is to drift away from yourself, without even noticing it's happening.
Yeah, and I think what makes it even harder is how normal it all looks from the outside. You're meeting deadlines, replying to texts, saying all the right things, but no one really asks how you feel doing any of it. And maybe that's part of the problem. We've built a life around being productive, but not around being honest. So even when something doesn't feel right, we keep going because stopping feels like failure and slowing down feels like weakness. Sometimes I'll be in the middle of doing something simple, washing dishes, sitting on the bus, walking home, and this random thought pops into my head, like, is this it? Is this what it's always going to feel like? And I don't mean that in a dramatic way. It's not a breakdown. It's just this quiet disappointment that sneaks in and makes everything feel a little dimmer. Like the colors aren't as bright, the moments don't land as deeply, and you're constantly waiting for something to shift, but nothing ever really does. And what's strange is, you can't even point to what's wrong. There's no big problem to fix. It's just this subtle lack of meaning. Like your days are filled with noise, but not much purpose. You start noticing how often you avoid silence, how you reach for your phone the second you're alone, how background music is always playing. Not because you love it, but because you're scared of what might come up if things get too quiet. And I think we've just gotten used to that. Used to avoiding ourselves, because facing what's really going on, even if it's vague or hard to name, takes energy we're afraid we don't have. So we keep busy, keep smiling, and keep hoping it'll go away on its own.
Yep, and it's wild how being constantly surrounded doesn't stop you from feeling completely alone. Like you can be sitting next to someone you love, talking about your day, sharing space, and still feel like there's a wall between you that neither of you knows how to break. And I don't think it's because people don't care. I think we've just forgotten how to be real with each other. How to have conversations that aren't just updates or plans, but actual check-ins. Like, how's your heart? How are you really holding up? We're afraid of making things heavy, so we keep it light. We make jokes, change the subject, say I'm fine even when we're not. Because being vulnerable feels like too much. Like we're asking for more than people are ready to give. And that builds up. Because if you go long enough without being seen, you start to shrink. Not in a dramatic way, just quietly. You stop reaching out, you stop hoping someone might notice. And you settle into that silence, like it's the only place that feels safe. Sometimes I think the emptiness isn't from lacking connection, but from forgetting how to show up without the mask. How to say, I'm not okay, without feeling like you've failed at something. And maybe that's why joy feels so far away sometimes. Because joy needs space. It needs honesty. It needs us to be present with ourselves. Not just performing what we think life should look like. We're so focused on making it through, checking things off, getting things done, that we forget we're allowed to feel, even if it's inconvenient, even if it doesn't fit the timeline, or the image we're trying so hard to keep together.
And you know what else? I think part of it comes from always being compared, not even by others. We do it to ourselves. You scroll through your feed, see someone traveling, glowing, achieving, and suddenly your own life feels quiet, almost invisible. It's not even jealousy. It's this subtle voice that whispers, shouldn't you be more excited about your life? And that whisper grows, until every ordinary moment starts to feel like a letdown. You convince yourself that maybe you just need a change. A new job, a new city, something big to shake you out of the fog. But when you get it, the emptiness still finds you. Because it was never about what you had. It was about how disconnected you felt from what you have. I've had days where everything went right. Got good news. Got praised. Even had plans with people I care about. But deep down, I still felt numb. And that scared me more than sadness ever did. Because at least sadness tells you you're alive. Numbness? It's just silence. A kind that feels like it could last forever if you let it. And I think one of the reasons we stay stuck is because we've learned to measure our lives by what they look like, instead of how they feel. We chase approval, we chase certainty, but we don't ask ourselves, am I actually okay with the life I'm building? Sometimes I wonder if the cure for emptiness isn't adding more, but peeling things back, getting honest about what's draining us, what we've outgrown, and what we're clinging to, just because we're scared of the quiet that would come if we let it go.
That hit me. Because I felt that exact thing. This urge to keep building, to keep adding layers, as if more will finally make the emptiness go away. A new routine, a new goal, even a new version of myself. But the truth is, you can decorate a hollow space all you want. It doesn't make it feel full. And I've noticed, sometimes we hold on to things, not because they make us happy, but because they're familiar. Even if they're draining us, they give us structure. Like keeping a job that no longer excites you, or staying in touch with people just because they've been around for years, even if the connection's faded. We tell ourselves it's safer to stay where we are than to face the weight of uncertainty. But deep down, we know when something's no longer meant for us. We just don't always know what comes next. So we stay still, hoping the feeling will pass. It usually doesn't. And you know what I think hurts the most? When you finally have everything you thought you wanted, and it still doesn't fill that space inside. You worked hard. You followed the plan. You hit the milestones. And yet there's this dull ache that keeps resurfacing. It's like your soul knows you've been living by someone else's definition of enough. We spend years trying to prove our worth, checking boxes, collecting gold stars, And somewhere along the way, we forget how to just be still with ourselves. Not productive, not impressive, just real. Sometimes I wonder if we even know how to rest anymore. Not the kind where you sleep for 8 hours and wake up feeling just as tired, but real rest, the kind where your thoughts finally slow down, your chest stops feeling tight, and you're not constantly bracing for the next thing. And maybe that's why the emptiness lingers. Because we've been taught to chase noise, to chase movement. But stillness, it forces us to feel all the things we've been pushing away. Regret, confusion, loneliness, even guilt for not being more grateful. But the truth is, gratitude and emptiness can exist at the same time. You can be thankful for your life and still feel like something's missing. That doesn't make you selfish. It makes you human. We all crave depth, not just in relationships, but in how we live, in how we speak, how we show up, how we hold space for what we don't yet understand. And maybe the first step is just admitting we feel this way, without fixing it, without rushing past it, just naming it. Because sometimes being seen in your emptiness is the first time you remember you're not really alone in it.
I completely agree. It's like we've forgotten how to simply be. We're so caught up in this endless cycle of doing that we've lost touch with just existing. And it's not about doing more or achieving more. It's about allowing ourselves the space to just be, to breathe without pressure. But we often think we're failing if we don't have constant movement. Like if we're not constantly reaching for something new, we're falling behind, or worse, wasting time. But here's the thing. Time isn't just about what you achieve in it. It's about how you feel in it. And if every moment feels like a race, what's the point of winning? And maybe that's what emptiness really is. It's not a void that needs filling with distractions or goals, but a signal telling us we're disconnected. We're disconnected from the present, from our own needs, from our own feelings. We've put so much focus on the outside that we've stopped paying attention to the inside. Sometimes the emptiness comes from overloading our schedules, always saying yes to everything, filling our time with noise and activity because we're scared of what would happen if we stopped and listened to ourselves. What would we find? What would we have to face? And I think we've been taught that slowing down is a luxury, something we don't deserve unless we've earned it. But when you never give yourself permission to stop, to reflect, to breathe, you lose touch with who you are in the moment, and you start living on autopilot. What we need to realize is, it's okay to take a step back, to not have everything figured out all the time. It's okay to not be constantly productive. It's okay to let yourself be a little lost, a little confused. Because sometimes, that's the only way you'll find clarity again. I've also come to understand that the emptiness we feel is often a sign that we're not in alignment with our true selves. We get so caught up in other people's expectations, in what the world tells us we should want, that we forget what we actually want, what we actually need to feel fulfilled. There's this pressure to find purpose, like it's some end goal, something you can check off. But purpose isn't something you find once and for all. It's something you feel, and it changes over time. Sometimes purpose is in the small moments, in how you show up for yourself, in the simple acts of kindness, in allowing yourself to feel without judgment. So maybe we don't need more accomplishments to feel whole. Maybe we need more quiet, more honesty, more reflection. We need to stop chasing things and start listening to the things we've been ignoring within ourselves. Because the emptiness doesn't go away by adding more to our plates. It fades when we give ourselves permission to be whole, just as we are in all our complexities.
I think a big part of why we feel empty, even when things are going well, is because we don't know how to appreciate what we have right now. We're so focused on what we don't have, on what's missing, on what could be better, that we overlook all the good things right in front of us. It's almost like we're so busy looking ahead, so focused on what's next, that we forget to pause and look around at the beauty that's already here. We forget to notice the small things that bring us joy. The warm cup of coffee in the morning, the conversation with a friend, the feeling of the sun on our skin, the comfort of our own home. All these things are already part of our lives, but we take them for granted, thinking they're not enough. The more we chase after what's missing, the more we lose sight of what we have. It's like we're always running after the horizon, never stopping to enjoy the view. And when we do that, we end up missing out on the very thing we're searching for: contentment. I've realized that when we can truly appreciate the present, when we can learn to be grateful for what's right here, we begin to feel more at peace with ourselves. We stop looking for happiness in the next thing, Because we realize that happiness isn't something that comes from outside of us. It's something we can create by being present, by embracing the life we already have.
Absolutely. That really hits home. It's strange how often we overlook the present moment, like it's just a stepping stone to somewhere more important. We say things like, I'll relax once I finish this, or I'll be happy when that happens. And suddenly years go by, and we've lived most of them, waiting for the future to give us permission to feel okay. And most of what we crave is already around us in some form. We're just too distracted to notice. We're always chasing a version of life that lives in our imagination, instead of pausing long enough to see what life is already offering us. Sometimes I think we expect fulfillment to look grand, to come with a dramatic shift, or a huge moment of success, but often it shows up quietly. In slow mornings, in shared silence, in familiar routines that feel like home. But we miss it, because we think it should be louder, more obvious, more impressive. And we confuse satisfaction with progress. We think if we're not moving forward, then we must be doing something wrong. But being still isn't the same as being stuck. Sometimes it's in that stillness that we reconnect with what truly matters. There's so much richness in the now, but we keep turning away from it, as if what we have isn't enough, until someone else says it is. But what if we stopped waiting for outside validation, to appreciate our own lives? What if we just allowed ourselves to feel content without needing a reason? That sounds good to someone else. Gratitude isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It just gently reminds us that this moment, right here, is worthy of being noticed. And when we let ourselves notice it, really see it, the emptiness begins to lose its grip, because maybe what fills us was never something we had to find. Maybe it's something we had to see, was already here.
Maybe the real answer is not adding more, but slowing down enough to see what's already here. To stop running from ourselves. To stop chasing things we think will make us feel whole. Because sometimes what we call emptiness is just the space we never took the time to understand. And when we finally sit with it, when we stop trying to fill every second, we see it's not emptiness at all. It's room to breathe, room to feel, room to come back to who we are. We don't always need more. We just need to notice what we've been too busy to see. The little things, the quiet moments, the people who care, the parts of us we've been ignoring. Thank you so much for being here and listening all the way through. If this spoke to you, please leave a comment and tell us what you think. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps us keep making more. Take care and see you in the next video.